So I've come out today with a Pentacon 6 and a roll of Ilford Delta 100. And for my metering I'm using this little tiny light meter from China. Do these really work? I don't know. Let's take a picture of this door and find out. Just a simple composition on this door. We've got some nice light bouncing off of it. So we'll use the little meter, point it towards the... point it towards, make sure my fingers ain't in the way. Look, it's falling out of my hands. Make sure there you go. Right, we'll just do a quick reading over here, point it towards that part, and it reckons 5.6 1/30th of a second. I never thought I'd see the day that I'd put one of these little tiny light meters on top of one of my cameras, and to be honest with you, I just thought that was one of those cool gadgets that came out of China that you put in your bag and maybe didn't really work that well. After all, who wants to gamble with their exposures when they're shooting film? That's the thing about coming out today and just got 12 shots. So I'm really only out to test out this little tiny light meter, but I'm shooting some Ilford Delta 100 and I don't want to waste that film. I'm using that because it's fresh film. I've got loads of expired film that I could just shoot and test out, but it's expired film. You never know what you're going to get. So to be fair on this little meter, I'm shooting a fresh roll of Ilford Delta, but around this church I could literally shoot the whole roll on details such as this old door knocker and this old door, this old studded door. And in my mind I'm thinking, will any of these ever make a print that would look quite nice on anyone's wall, you know? So that's pretty much the basis of my ideas, but really I want to see how this light meter performs. And I did ask on the community channel if any of you guys have got one of these or got something similar. Let me know what you think about it and, you know, do you like it? And I got some rather interesting comments. If you want to see all those comments, go onto the channel's community area and you can see what people are saying about these little tiny light meters. So far, I think they're actually really good. And you guys said that you were using these meters with all mixed reviews. A Headcore 2, I've got a TT Artisan, a Kex KM02, Reflex Lab, a Ravani Lab. And because I never really fancied getting one, I've never researched it before, but realised how many of these little... Where's it gone? Wrong camera. And because I've never really looked into these tiny light meters before, I didn't realise how many there were out there. And what's really funny is I was out with my mate Nick. He come all the way from the States to the UK, and he come and see me. We went out for a photo walk, and as we was walking around, we started getting our gear out of our bags like we all do to take pictures. And he pulls out this little tiny, get it off the camera, little tiny light meter, and he's walking around taking readings. And I'm looking, and I said to him, I've never seen one of those before. Let's have a look. And I put it in my hand, and I looked at it. I thought, it's a bit light, but I still thought, it wasn't impressed. I just thought, that ain't going to work, surely. And I gave it back to him. I just carried on. And lo and behold, about a few weeks later, I get a message from the company Pergear in China, and they said to me, do you want to review one of our light meters? And I was like, well, yeah, okay, send it over. And they sent it to me, and it's only exactly the same one as what Nick was using. What's the chances of that?
Pretty damn slim, Raj.
So I haven't shot any film on this yet, and what I've been doing is testing this light meter with the Leica Q2's meter, which this thing is flawless. So I've been testing it with that. And I'll just do a quick photograph of this scene here. Here's the light meter. If I point it towards the scene, so it's giving me a 2.8, 400 speed, 1/250th of a second. Let's shoot that on the Leica Q2, we'll see what that metering says. So if I bring the Leica Q2 up into play now, you can just see on the screen, 250th, 2.8, 400 ISO. Bang, there you go. And I've had to set the exposure compensation on this to -1 so it matches the Q2, and that also matches my Sekonic light meter. If I point this back towards the camera there, that's given me 250 at 2.8, 400. So this is calibrated to this and also the Leica Q2, which means this is, if that's good enough for them two, it's certainly good enough for my film cameras. So I'm inside this old church. The man's come over and let me inside to take a picture, which is ideal to use this light meter. So my camera's back there, and I'm going to take a photograph this way of all the pews and all the chairs. I've got the light meter in my hand, as well as my glasses. There's a little light meter there. So I'll just do a quick meter from back there at the camera and see what we get. F5.6, half a second. I actually cheated. I did bring my light meter just to check, make sure that it's right, but I'm still going to use the metering from the Astrhori. F8, half a second. Now, most of my cameras like this 35mm Nikon FM3A have got brilliant internal light meters and they work really well, so there's no reason for me to use a handheld meter or any other meter whatsoever. I trust the meter inside this camera and it does work well. When I come to cameras like this Olympus OM20 that I've got here, the meter on this is a stop or two out, and it depends what sort of lighting conditions I'm in. So that tiny little light meter would be really handy for this camera. To be honest with you, I've got other SLRs as well that I shoot, or other cameras that I shoot that don't even have a light meter, such as this Zeiss Icon. And when I shoot these, I'm either using my Sekonic handheld light meter that I've got here, or I use a phone app, which are okay, they get you out of a bit of a sticky situation. Or generally I'll walk around and use my own initiative. When I'm looking at the light, I think, okay, I need 1/25 of a second, 100 speed film, f8 or f11, and wing it, and generally come back with half decent results, or sometimes they can be bang on if I'm lucky. And if you're interested in knowing how to shoot film without a light meter, I've got a video on that. I'll put a link in the description. You can jump on there. I'll put it at the end of this video as well, so you can click on it once you've seen this video. But let's get on with this little tiny light meter and see how good it is. So you can see how small it is in my hands here. That's the main face of it. It's only got one function button, and on the bottom is a cold shoe that you put onto your camera, and you can take that off. It gives you a little tool in the box. You can take this off and slide it left or right so it doesn't get in the way of your camera shutter speed dials or whatever. And there's your USB-C connector for charging the battery inside. So if you press the button, turn it on, and there you go, you're greeted with aperture, shutter speed, and your ISO at the bottom there. And the arrow indicates that I'm in aperture priority mode, so whatever I set the aperture to, it will give me the shutter speed recommendation. Press it twice, the function button, and it will go to shutter priority. So you've got shutter priority or aperture priority, and if I press the function button once and then quickly press it again and keep the button pressed in, it will go to the ISO values, like so. Keep the finger pressed on it, there you go. Then you can change your ISO, and the ISO goes all the way from 5, I think it was, yeah, 5, all the way to 6400. And if you do the same again, it comes up here, so you've got your exposure compensation, so you can calibrate the meter to whatever you're used to. I've got mine set to -1 because that seems to be where it's working best, where I've calibrated it with my other light meters. This little tiny loop here means that you're in constant mode, so wherever you point the meter, it will change the values without doing anything. I don't like it in that mode, but you can lock it by pressing the button one more time, and the lock button comes up so you can lock the exposure. But I rather turn that off, a little short press, and use it just by pointing at whatever my scene is and pressing the button to get a reading. That seems to work best for me. This pictures of the organ and some concrete work around it. So I'll just point this towards, and it's giving me 1/8 at 2.8. Done. The build quality is absolutely fantastic. I think it's made of brass. You can already see the brass coming through on the cold shoe there, where I've been putting it on and off the cameras. So it does feel solid, feels good quality. The USB-C connector there seems like it's a little bit misplaced, and so does the LED display. I don't know if you can see that. It looks a little bit wonky, and if I push that, it pushes onto the circuit board. It hasn't got any plastic covering on the outside, so I wouldn't want to take this out in the rain or get it wet. And that's the battery indicator there. This thing will last all day on a full charge. I've tried it out already, and you can see how small the pinhole is, or the light meter, little pinhole light meter there. I think it's about a 30-degree angle. Don't quote me on that because there's nothing on the instructions that says what it is. But if it's like all the others, it will probably be a 30-degree angle meter. But something like this could be a game changer for me. Just like I said, put it in my pocket, put it in my bag. Usually I take out the Sekonic if I'm using cameras that don't have a meter, just for be on the safe side, you know, and just take a quick reading and then carry on shooting. As long as the light doesn't change, I can just carry on my merry way. Or I might use a phone app, but I don't really like using the phone apps that much, but they do get you out of a sticky situation if you're really desperate. But for the price of this little thing, I wish that I'd found these earlier, because they would have been a real result for the cameras that I've got where the light meters aren't working, or the cameras that I've got where they haven't even got a light meter inside. Like I said, just put it in your pocket, pull it out like Nick was when I was out shooting with him, take a reading, bosh, off you go. So I'm going to go out now and shoot this little light meter with this Pentacon 6. I'm taking no other light meter, I'm just going to use this one for the readings and see what I can get. I'll show you guys where I am, the lighting conditions, how I'm metering using this, and we'll see what we get. can see the grass on the steps here, and this lovely old door bracket. Look at this, probably over 100 years old that, so it's giving me half a second now at f11. If I come back here, it's giving me, counting into everything else so it doesn't blow out, 1/8 of a second at f11. So I'm going to go 1/4 of a second in between. 1/4 of a second on the camera, and I'm all focused in, take the shot. Done. You come to these churches, and like this one's mid-1800s, but there's some that are hundreds of years old, and you can only imagine that when these churches were built, there was nothing else around here. And I've just been told a story where in World War II, a German flew over and he dropped his bomb, and it went right through one of those windows, straight through the church, out the other window, and blew up the vicarage and the vicar's family. And inside there's a piece of shrapnel from that day. Amazing. And the thing is with this light meter is I keep bloody losing it. I don't know what pocket I've put it in. Here it is in my back pocket. Oh man. So again, what I'm doing, I've got another scene here, Hong Kong City. It's actually a really nice Chinese takeaway. Not that I go there often. I've got in this shot some of the sky, some of the road as well. So if I do two readings, one pointing up towards the sky, it's giving me 1/250th of a second at f11. If I point down towards the ground, it's giving me 1/25th. If I point directly at the building, so I've just pointed it straight at the building, it says 1/25th of a second. Let's take that shot and then see what my Sekonic meter says. Let's see what the Sekonic meter says on this. I've shot that at 1/25th. Oh, okay, that's a difference. Back towards the camera. Give me 1/30th. Interesting. I know what I'd done. I'd accidentally hit the jog wheel, and that's one of the troubles with this I'm finding, is that it's very easy to knock. You pull it out of your pocket, you start doing some metering, and you've accidentally knocked it. It's not very stiff at all, so it's easy to turn around. I've just done another reading, f11, and it's come back at 1/30th, the same as the Sekonic. Interesting. Done. So I've just taken a photograph of the CAF over the road there. There's a couple of white vans, you know, just shows the era that we're in, 2023, a couple of those white vans at that CAF, 30, 40 years time. That picture will probably look nostalgic if someone ever found me negatives. But I've just pointed the meter straight at the CAF and it's nearly dropped the bloody thing. It's given me f11 at 1/60th of a second. That's what I've just taken that shot at. This is really interesting. The only gripe I've got with this, it needs a little tiny lip for one of those things you put around your neck, so you can just keep it around your neck, because the amount of times I've nearly dropped it, I don't think it's bomb proof. So I'm now actually at the train station, which is just a walk away from that CAF and the church, and I'm using the meter now in continuous mode. I'm finding that actually quite handy. I'm just pointing it and I'm looking at the meter as I'm pointing it around. I don't have to press the button. That's actually quite a handy feature. Didn't think I'd use that. So I'm just pointing it over there, metering around, trying to get an average, and I'm looking at 1/15th at f11. Focused on this big barrier here, you can see that's the end of the line behind me. So let's get a shot of that 1/15th f11. So I'm just doing an inside shot now, so I'm not in daylight, that's daylight. I'm underneath this big cover, this old Victorian train station, just taking a picture of that bench and a few people sitting on the other side. Giving me 1/8 of a second at f8. So I've just dialed that in, 1/8 of a second at f8. If we come over and see what the Sekonic gives us, f8, and it's given me 1/4 of a second at f8. I went 1/8 of a second with the other meter. So another scene here. You know how I like a bench, look at this old brickwork. I've just got the corner of this bench in, and I've just done 1/8 of a second on the Astrhori meter. And my light meter on the Sekonic is saying f11 is about 1/4 of a second. In fact, yeah, f11 or 8.9 it says 1/4 of a second. So, and the Astrhori is giving me half a second. So instead of 1/4 of a second, this is saying it should be half a second. Interesting. So I've got the famous 13th shot out of this camera. This actually gives you 13 shots from a 120 film, just done a meter on the whole train station. F11, 1/30th of a second, sorry, 1/60th of a second. So we'll just shoot that now. Job done. Let's go develop this and see what we get. So I was amazed that this little tiny light meter did work, and like I said to you before, in the past I've seen these pop up and I've never really fancied one, mainly because I've got a Seconic light meter that works brilliantly and it's got a spot meter on it as well, so I can be really accurate with it. And my other cameras have got light meters inside. But I suppose this little tiny thing, if I didn't have a Seconic light meter, for the sake of 50, 60 or 70 quid, I think it would be really good, a good investment for my photography. Obviously I'm using older cameras, so it depends whether these shutter speeds on these cameras are working correctly. It depends whether my development was correct as well. But looking at the negatives, they came out looking really nice. My only gripes, like I said in the video, is it hasn't got a little tiny loop or something for a land guard, because I just kept losing the bloody thing in every pocket. I didn't know where it ended up. It would be handy to have it around my neck and just whip it out and take a picture or take a reading when I wanted to. The other thing is the LED display. That was a little bit wonky. That sort of puts me off a little bit because of the build quality, but then maybe I've just got one in 1,000 that it's a bit wonky, you know. And the little tiny dial there, I feel like that could be a little bit stiffer. I kept nudging it when I was trying to take readings with one hand. I kept knocking it. But other than that, it's a really good meter and it does work well. And I must say a massive thank you to Eric Epskamp for sending me these wonderful prints of these Buddha on fibre-based paper. Look at these. Absolutely beautiful. And Eric said that I inspired him with all the darkroom videos, and he sent me a couple of prints of his own work. Well done, Eric. These are fantastic, and thank you for sending them in, mate. So if you're interested in one of these light meters, I've put links in the description. Go on there, have a look, have a read up, see if it suits you. There are other little tiny light meters out there. So if you're out on the market for one of these little tiny light meters, have a look at the other ones as well and their reviews. But I couldn't fault this when I was out. It worked well and I came back with good negatives and nice photographs. So that's this. So that's the Astrhori. I dropped it again. That's the Astrhori light meter. Be careful because it's easy to drop. I'll catch you next time.